Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is back. Not only high school football season returns for the 2026 season, but it's talked about here on the Sync Talk podcast for the first time in, well, I don't know how long. And before we continue, I just got to say thank you. Thank you to all the love and support for Sync Sports Network. Over the last 4 years, friend, we are entering year number 5. What a blessing it has been. It started with me traveling along all these different schools as a 19, 20-year-old, but now we're in year 5. What a blessing it is to bring back the Sync Talk podcast with a lot of amazing guests, amazing high school football, and so much more on the way. Speaking of amazing content on the way, we have something new to the Sync Talk podcast, which is the Reynolds Recap, where we will be with head football coach Joe Davidyock of R.J. Reynolds High School each and every week, talking about R.J. Reynolds football week by week, covering their games from the previous week, and looking forward to the week ahead in their matchups. We will also be bringing back old content like the Pick'ems each week. And for week 1, we have a great special guest that you'll see in just a little bit. And each and every week, we'll have a special guest that will join the podcast to make their selections in the week of high school football. And all this has been made possible by 2 sponsors this week, Lloyd's Smooth Moving and Auto Detail Remedy. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the Sync Talk podcast and also week 1's game of the week here on Sync Sports Network. You'll hear a little bit about those 2 amazing companies in just a little bit. It is football season and week 0 has come and gone. It is now week 1 of high school football. So many great games to start with in week 1, including the battle for the bell, Reagan versus Mount Tabor. We also have a huge 336 versus 704 matchup between Grimsley and West Charlotte. Many other rivalry games as well, including Oak Grove and Ledford, Parkland and Carver, and of course, our game of the week, Mount Airy versus Starmount. But right now, we're going to take it to the Reynolds Recap, Episode 1 with Joe Davidyock, the head football coach of R.J. Reynolds High School. Before we continue with the podcast, I want to give a big thanks to Auto Detail Remedy for sponsoring this week's Game of the Week and the podcast. Auto Detail Remedy has been serving communities in the Triad for over 20 years, specializing in paint correction and repair, interior and exterior detailing, odor removal, and so much more. Whether your vehicle needs a deep clean or professional finish, Auto Detail Remedy has you covered. Auto Detail Remedy, bringing your ride back to its best. Sync Sports Network and the Sync Talk podcast would like to thank Lloyd's Smooth Moving for sponsoring this week's Game of the Week. Located in Pinnacle, North Carolina, Lloyd's Smooth Moving is a family-owned company that offers full packing and moving services across the U.S. and right here in North Carolina. They are licensed and insured, offering packing, short and long distance moves, furniture assembly and disassembly, and free estimates. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Lloyd's Smooth Moving is ready to help. For more information, call 336-756-1220. Lloyd's Smooth Moving. Your smooth move starts here. Welcome back to the Sync Talk podcast. Doing something a little different this year as we are doing a Reynolds Recap with R.J. Reynolds High School football coach Joe Davidyock. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Good, you?
Good. It has been a pleasure the last 3 years working with you guys and going into this year. Just so excited. So many great things to talk about. But I kind of want to start with last year. One of the best seasons in over 10 years, winning 6 games, making to the first round of the 7-8 state playoffs. Before we kind of get going, just kind of talk a little bit about the beginning of last season, going into it, and just kind of reflecting on the season you had, graduating 15 seniors, and just kind of the 2025 reflection overall.
Yeah, like you said, it was such a big year for us. It's such a long time. We hadn't had a winning season in well over a decade. We hadn't gotten to the playoffs in well over a decade. We hadn't, there's so many things that we hadn't done for so long. And that group was with me when I got here, with the exception of a few. And it was just finally their time to take over and just take the next step from the seniors before them. And they did a great job. We had really good leadership, I thought, in last year's group. And they were really bought into what we were trying to do. They were really good teammates to one another. They were really good teammates to the young guys and really showed them the ways. So they just enjoyed the fruits of their labor. We had a really good staff last year. We still have a really good staff. And I thought we just benefited off the time that we put in. A 3-year quarterback, We had some receivers that have been part of the system for 3 years, linemen that have been part of the system for 3 years. So and then defensively, we did the same. We've been the same defense for 3 years, just finally getting going on schematics. If they understand what we're trying to do from a base standpoint, and then just building off of that each year. Those 15 guys did an outstanding job all year last year. We miss them tremendously, but this next group is really exciting too.
Let's talk about this year. Over 100 kids showed up during the summer, which is something that's not really been seen in the last 10, 20 years here at Reynolds. Talk a little bit about kind of this off season for you guys, preparing, getting those underclassmen in, coached up, and just kind of getting ready for week 1 coming up Friday.
Yeah, we had 120 on the very first day in May come out, which was, I was like, so excited. My goal has been for so long just to hit 90, and then we get up 120, and my first year we had 75, and then we had 84 the year after that, and in year 3 we came back down to 74. So it was just up and down, and people told me all the time, like, Coach, numbers of Reynolds are never good for 7A or even 4A when we were 4A. And my goal was just to really pull those kids out of the locker room, the hallways, and do as much as we can, get as many kids out there. Because in this league, numbers are a big thing. We gotta have them. Gotta have the bodies. So to have 120 come out, get 56 freshmen show up, it's just a good feeling for me because I felt like accomplished. But at the same time, it was really cool because I'm starting to think Reynolds is starting to be the cool thing on campus. Mm-hmm. And then it's trickled down. We're down to 110 now, which is great. And they've done great all summer. We've had to learn how to practice with that many kids. Our staff is a little bit smaller this year than years past, so we've had to adjust that way. But I think the kids have taken it in stride. Good nucleus has been here all summer, and then ever since we got back to school, they've been here every day, which has been, they've done a great job. It's shown, in our scrimmages and things like that. So it's going to be a really exciting group, very raw group. I'm excited to see what they can do.
So let's talk about the last week being week 0. You finished up on Friday at a scrimmage in North Forsyth for the Bill Hayes Pigskin Classic. Take me through that scrimmage with Mount Tabor. Also on Tuesday, had the chance of scrimmaging Mount Airy as well. So talk a little bit about that, some of the highs and lows, and some of the things you're looking forward to improving going into this week.
Right. Tuesday we played Mount Airy. There was a lightning delay. We sat for 3 hours, but we had to get that game in because it was a postponement from the Friday before for thunderstorms. So we just kind of hunkered down, just tried to wait it out. By about 7:30, we were able to go out and play. And we played 4 8-minute quarters. Tried to get as much work in as we could. I thought our defense did a really great job. Offensively, I think we're right where we needed to be on Tuesday. We didn't score. We didn't move the ball as much as I would have liked. We weren't very explosive, but I was encouraged by the film. We were like 1 piece or 2 pieces out of place from being really successful on offense. And I kind of expected that, sitting for 3 hours and all this other stuff, and not having a real competition just yet. So I thought the film was great to see. Really did well on defense, and our guys were flying around. So it was exciting to see. So I was excited for Friday. Our kids, I think really like playing Tabor, and they were talking about that all week, just the opportunity to go, up against them. I think there's a lot of respect on both sides of the ball. I think Tabor's a great football team. I think Tashawn Brown does a great job with that group. Obviously, it shows in his resume. And those kids play hard for him every year. And I just wanted our kids to show up and compete at a high level. And I think we did that and then some. Our defense showed out for another night. I thought offensively we woke up with just a little bit more. We got a little bit more work to do. And I just thought I was really encouraged by what we saw. To go toe-to-toe with a team like that, even being a 6A program, they are one of the top teams in the state, in my opinion, year in, year out. And even though they had a down year last year to their standard, we always know they're going to bring it against us. They like to play against us. We like to play against them. And I was really pleased to see our kids rise to the occasion and play at a very high level. We had 2 takeaways and another one called back on a penalty. Moved the football pretty good in the air and on the ground. So I was really pleased to see what we did Friday, and it gives me a lot more confidence going into next week, of course. We're excited to be rolling for week 1.
talking about week one on the road back to North Forsyth against North Forsyth to kick off the season. Just kind of what your thoughts going into that, some of the keys that you're looking for, and what it's going to take for Reynolds to get the win on Friday.
Yeah, I think this is a team that's good enough to make some plays against you. We watched the scrimmage film, and they're making some explosive plays on offense, and they're making good plays on defense. Coach Williams does a great job with those guys. They play hard for him. I think that's a testament to him as a coach. We had some success last year, but every year's a new year, and we got to reset and come in with with some humility by ourselves and make sure we put a good show together on week one. Those keys that you're asking about, like, we got to be efficient on both sides of the ball. We can't increase snap penalty. We had a ton in the scrimmage on Friday. We can't turn the ball over. We got to win the turnover battle every week. That has to be a key to the game. And then we gotta establish what we're going to be offensively. I think that's the biggest question mark right now around us. Like, quarterback question mark with Tommy Elrod graduating. Porter last year and Emmanuel Addison have been kind of battling it out all summer. And we got to know what we're going to be and who's going to be the playmakers this year. We had playmakers last year. We pretty much new set of guys this year on offense. Who's going to step up and be the guy to take over on offense? And the guy that the other opponents put on film and say, that we got a key on that guy. I haven't seen that yet. So I'm kind of challenging our offense a little bit this week to really put a big statement together like we did last year. But we got to be efficient. We can't turn the ball over. We got to take what the defense gives us, absolutely, and then when we have opportunities to score, we got to take it. So.
Awesome. Well, Coach, appreciate it for the first time. Reynolds Recap. It's going to be fun being with you again on the sidelines for year 3, year 4 for you. So just looking forward to, again, another great season of RJ Reynolds football.
Appreciate it.
More of the Sing Talk podcast in just a second, including the top 10 games to pick, including our game of the week. Before we continue with the podcast, I want to give a big thanks to Auto Detail Remedy for sponsoring this week's Game of the Week and the podcast. Auto Detail Remedy has been serving communities in the Triad for over 20 years, specializing in paint correction and repair, interior and exterior detailing, odor removal, and so much more. Whether your vehicle needs a deep clean or professional finish, Auto Detail Remedy has you covered. Auto Detail Remedy, bringing your ride back to its best. Sync Sports Network and the Sync Talk podcast would like to thank Lloyd's Smooth Moving for sponsoring this week's Game of the Week. Located in Pinnacle, North Carolina, Lloyd's Smooth Moving is a family-owned company that offers full packing and moving services across the U.S. and right here in North Carolina. They are licensed and insured, offering packing, short and long distance moves, furniture assembly and disassembly, and free estimates. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Lloyd's Smooth Moving is ready to help. For more information, call 336-756-1220. Lloyd's Smooth Moving. Your smooth move starts here. Welcome back to the Sing Talk podcast here on Sing Sports Network, and it is now time for the pick'ems for week 1 of the 2026 high school football season. And there's no better guest that I'd rather have on this week 1 edition of the Sing Talk podcast than a guy who's been on the Sing Talk podcast in many different variations for the last 4 to 5 years. It is Brandon Starnes, otherwise known as B Starnes Media, a good friend to Sing Talk podcast and the Sing Sports Network. Brandon, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, man, and appreciate all the kind words you just said, and I'm excited to be back on the podcast with you. I started with you in the filming industry, and so, like you said, there's no person I'd rather be with right here doing this together on week 1.
Well, you and I both started together filming, but you've also been killing it as a coach as well in many different opportunities of growth with coaching. And now just announced recently the new assistant coach at Winston-Salem Christian, a really well-known and traditionally talented program. So congratulations to you on that. And
thank you.
I've been hearing you've been going to pick up the camera again and get out on the field. So I'm excited for that as well.
Yep. So I got a lot of good things going. Like I said, Winston-Salem Christian. Excited for opportunity, being a new environment. I was recently at Chestnut Grove for 5 years, so it's going to be much different being outside Stokes County. But I feel like it's much needed for growth. And, I'm pulling the camera back out since I got some free time being an assistant coach and just getting back involved and hopefully getting to catch some of these seniors that I'll get to see growing up since they're 8th, 7th graders. So.
Super excited. Absolutely. And again, No other person I'd rather have week one for this podcast to kick it back off. It's been a while since we've done it. I know myself, you, Michaela, who
Hmm.
was featured a lot here on Sin Sports Network, just a lot of different
Hmm.
people, but no better way to kick it off week one for the Pick'ems. Now, I didn't mention to you
Yeah.
this, Brandon, but whoever gets the best record out of all the guest pickers will actually receive a prize. So if you get a pretty good record for
Okay.
week one of picking, you'll get something at the end of the season. I don't know what, because I got to find it in my budget, but it's going to be something good if you have the
Right.
best record
Okay.
out of the 10 or 11 games
Okay.
we'll pick. So without further
Hmm.
ado, let's start the first week one pick'ems off with a banger. It's the battle for the bell,
Hmm.
Reagan versus Mount Tabor. Brandon, who do you have for this game?
That's a tough one, man. It's real tough. I think that's going to be a really good game. It's week one. Like you said, it's a big robbery going down, but I'm going to have to take Reagan on that one. I like how Reagan looks. They have a lot of offensive pieces coming back. They got some good defensive pieces coming back. And I think they'll be able to pull it out. They have one of the best running backs in North Carolina, in my opinion. And, I don't see how much people are going to stop him, honestly. And I think with week one, there's not film on what they're going to do with him and how they're going to use him this year and keep him involved in the offense. So Tabor's going to be on their feet guessing a bunch, I think, this week.
It's crazy for the first pick that we kind of go the same way here. I am going to go with Reagan. A 3-point game, though, 27-24 Reagan. And the
Yes,
reason why is because it's going to be a defensive game. I really think it's going to be what defense can stop who and what defense can control the game. Both sides and both teams have Division One caliber players on their
absolutely.
programs. It's going to be exciting to see, as you mentioned, John Evans being one of the top running backs in the Triad. It's going to be a fun
Hmm.
defensive matchup for Tabor and Reagan. I think both teams are well coached by Tyshawn Brown and Josh McGee, longtime coaches in the Triad. So I got to go with Reagan, though, for the bell, 27-24. Now we transition still in the Triad. We're going to go with Parkland and Carver, another longtime rivalry. This one has
Hmm.
been interesting the last couple of years. Carver has taken control. I'm going to go with Parkland this year, though, getting the win over Carver
Mm.
21-17. Both teams have question marks, though. They're going to be young in a lot of different
Hmm.
spots. Carver is going to have a new identity, a lot of different players and new faces this year for their team. But I'm going to go with Parkland 21-17 over Carver.
Mm. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So I think we have our first disagreements here.
Hello.
I'm going with Carver.
Okay.
Um, his, Historically, Carver is running the tables right now with them, and I think Carver, they're going to be young, but I think they're going to have some good pieces come back. From my understanding, Parkland has a couple key pieces transfer out. So I think they're going to be putting some things together, trying to figure it out week one, and I think Carver should. I'll give him a 14-point win, 14-point spread on the game.
Well, it's definitely been a narrow margin, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Anywhere between a touchdown or two difference in this game. Really
Hmm.
good, honestly, in my opinion. It can go back and forth. A couple of these games we're going to see definitely can go back and forth either or. Going into this next game, this was actually our game of the week one last year between Ledford and Oak Grove. Kind of a different scenario this year. Ledford's a little bit older, but Brandon, who you got for this game?
I'm going Up Grove. Uh, I gotta go Oak Grove. They have a very strong offense. They have good coaching over there. They got their kids bought into the system, and from my understanding, they have a lot of key pieces coming back. I know the conference player of the year too just left for college, but they have a really decent quarterback and a good second string quarterback, skill guy that can play very well. So I think Oak Grove is going to should have a pretty good offensive night, in my opinion. But like you said, it's a rivalry. So they're going to play. Lefford's going to play hard. They're going to play really hard.
Agree with that as well. I'm going with Oak Grove 42-21. I think Ledford's going to be better because they had a lot of shakeups in the beginning of week one before the snaps even started with coaches and players in and out. And last year was a little different for Ledford than what we've seen in years past of how traditionally talented and even just the winning aspect for Ledford. But I think they'll be back a little bit this year. I still think Oak Grove has a little bit too much firepower for them week one. Elk Grove is a favorite again to win
Mm-hmm.
conference again, but it's going to be interesting to see how they perform week one at home. 42-21 is what I'm going with. Now, I saved this one for the middle half of this because it's a huge one. It's 336 versus 704. Former state champions
Mm-hmm.
versus former state champions. We have Grimsley hosting West Charlotte, probably one of the biggest
Mm-hmm.
games in the Triad week one, if not the biggest
Absolutely.
game. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Grimsley is going to win. It's going to be close. West Charlotte is loaded this year. I had the chance to see them at UNC Chapel Hill for 7-on-7, which I know that doesn't determine a good team overall because, football is played with pads. But I will say this, they have a lot of great skill players and a lot of guys coming into the program, but I still think Grimsley is one of the best teams in the state. They're going to narrow this one. I got it as a 1-point game, 21-20 over West Charlotte.
Okay. That's fair. I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I think Grimsley is gonna win it. Um, I'm not gonna say a fan, but I really do like the quarterback at Grimsley. When Brandon Faison was down and he stepped up as a freshman, it was like unreal. It was what he was doing out there as a freshman with that level of skill and competition he had to go against. I think he's gonna have a fantastic sophomore year. West Charlotte, I think is going to be good, but they do have some transfers come in, particularly a transfer quarterback who I think has the pieces to be a very good quarterback. But it's going to take some time for him to learn the system and learn what West Charlotte does. And he has a lot to expect out of him. Coming to a reigning state championship team is not easy, as it sounds.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think the transitions over the last 5 to 10 years for Grimsley becoming that dynasty, that standard
Hmm.
in North Carolina. And it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Brown and his squad with Brody Lowe, the quarterback for
Hmm.
Grimsley, making that impact in his sophomore campaign. We're going to go to the Randolph County area, and it's Randleman and Providence Grove kicking off week one against one another. We are very familiar with the head football coach at Randleman High School, Davy Diamond, in his second year now, I believe, with the program. I could be wrong on that. Davy, if you're listening, I apologize. But I know you've been there for quite some time. You have done it's been a phenomenal program, phenomenal start for Randleman. Starnes, who you got for Randleman Providence Grove?
Hey man, I find it very hard to bet against a diamond. Very, very hard, unless we're on the opposite side of the football.
Mhm.
So I gotta go with Randleman. His father's a great coach. He is a great coach. He lives up to every standard of his last name, and I think he's got that program rolling over there. I've watched film against them when they play some local teams, and he has a very good program over there. He knows what he's doing. So I'm going to take Randleman probably within 3 to 7 points. I
I
think it'll
like
be a
that.
pretty good game.
I like that. I have that in that same spread. I have it by 10. Randleman winning
That's fair.
27-17. Maybe I'm just a little biased as well because it was one of the most interesting and most fun of a media day I've ever had. And Randleman going out to that community
Yeah.
doing stuff for them. But I think Coach Diamond's got a really good squad coming back. I mean, they're going to have to replace the quarterback in Kirkpatrick and also some receivers that they've had that were 1,000-yard plus receivers, but they are in a stage where it's not rebuilding, it is reloading in Randleman. I think they're going to be dangerous in 4A. I'm going to go with them 27-17 to start off against Providence Grove.
Hmm.
An interesting one that I wanted to put on here is the defending 6A state champion Watauga Pioneers on the road against Ashe County week one. This is going to be
Hmm.
interesting. Watauga has really it's going to be an interesting 2026. They've got a lot of young pieces in. They're still going to be, I think, very talented. I have Watauga winning 27-14, but they're going to be very young on their defending campaign of the 6A state championship. Ashe County has always had really good pieces. They've had really good coaching with Coach Drew Piscopo, Brian Hampton, who have been there for many, many years. I think Watauga is going to win this game, but they're going to be very, very young in this 2026 season.
I'm gonna go with Target too. I played against Willard High School. I know it was 10, 15 years ago, but historically, they are a very good team. They play hard, they play strong, and they're very, very physical. I know like they lost some pieces, but they're coming off a strong season. I think they have good culture intact. And I think those seniors left a good impact on them to at least carry over momentum to have a very strong season this year.
Now let's go to the battle for the Kernersville Cup. East Forsyth versus Glenn. Now, Brandon, not too many years ago, this matchup was a playoff anticipated match, a high caliber
Hmm.
matchup. Glenn's had some down years. East Forsyth's even had some up and down years. But this year, under Coach Todd Willard, I think East Forsyth brought back a lot of pieces to their
Hmm.
program. Glenn's also gotten some guys in as well. They're going to be young, but I would like to hear your thoughts on this game for the Kernersville Cup in week one.
Like you said, Glenn's getting back to where they used to be. I think East Forsyth has stayed relevant for the past couple of years. They may not have made deep runs as normal, but they've been very promising every year. And another big fan I am of is Braxton. I enjoyed watching him play at Reedsville. I honestly thought he should have got more opportunity than he got over there, and I'm excited to see what he does as a QB1. Honestly, I think he's gonna have a big year, and I think he's ready to jump into that system and just roll. It's a system that runs itself almost. So I'm excited to see what they do, and I'm taking East Forsyth. I say 21 points, honestly.
A good answer. I think that's what I had it too, 35-14. A lot of key pieces that graduated from East Forsyth, but they did bring in a lot of other key pieces. Like you said,
Hmm.
Brax from Reynoldsville. You've had some other guys as well come in and transfer. I am going to go East Forsyth 21-point favorite, 35-14. Another game that is
Hmm.
interesting to look at, former CPC rivals, it is Davie County versus West Forsyth. Now, Brandon, I don't know if it's just because of Davie County's recent media day with the baby. I don't know if it's the aura of that and things that were happening with that, the excitement around Davie County because of that, that I was
Hmm.
tossing about this game, but I kind of went back into the facts and the details. West Forsyth is loaded. A lot of Division I prospects across
Absolutely.
the field. Their quarterback is probably one of the most up and rising stars to watch in the Triad.
Hmm.
So excited to see what they do for this game between Davie and West Forsyth. I do have West Forsyth winning 35-21. Don't want to count out Davie though. Davie has gotten better in the last few years. New head coach Brian Henson, I think, is entering his second full season with Davie County, formerly with Salisbury High School when they won the state championships. Going to be very interesting to see how that rolls overall. But I'm rolling with the West Forsyth Titans 35-21.
I'll piggyback on that. I'm going West Forsyth, but I do think it'll be a little bit closer. I say West Forsyth by 7. Um, I know they have a very strong defense coming back. I'm a little biased. My boy Cam Higgins is one of the inside linebackers, and I'm expecting a big year out of him. But also on Davies' side, they have Noah Doolin, who is a freak athlete. Like I coached against him at AAU, and I've kept up kind of what he's got going on, and I expect him and Cam both to have really big nights in this game. But like you said, they're both loaded. It's a lot of stars, a lot of firepower. So I think it's going to be an exciting game to watch on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. And again, maybe it's just because the baby showed up at Davie County Media Day, where I'm like, hey, I don't
Yeah, that
know.
was
Davie County might have some guys. If they got Kirk coming to hang out with them, something like
right.
that, it
Just
was
take some
interesting to
pictures.
see. And shout out to those who took those photos. I don't know the name.
Mhm.
I'll have to look back after this and check it
Yeah,
out and put it
those
in the
pictures
below.
was tough.
those were
Tough.
those were really really good. And whoever got the baby down to Davie County, big props to you. All right, back
Hmm.
on topic. We are going to do our former alma mater, which I was kind of figuring out whether or not I wanted to do this because you hate picking against your alma mater if you have to, or you got to go
Right.
with them. But it's West Oaks hosting North Davidson. West Oaks, new turf field, which, Brandon and I played at
Hmm.
different times at West Oaks. So it's a new look, a new era for West Oaks. Trent Lohman in his third season with the Wildcats against a really good up and coming North Davidson team who lost some steam, of course, going into the later half of the 2010s. But now they're seeming to get better and better. And this might be more of an interesting game than we think, Brandon, week one. Who do you got and why?
This is a tough one. Um, as I've mentioned, I recently coached and was in the community, and we're from here. So I have a little different insight. And the kids at West Oaks, not all of them, but some of them I coached in middle school. So I've seen them grow up and see who they are. So I do have a personal attachment to them, and I do have personal attachment to um, administration and what they have building there. But taking all that away from it and kind of just thinking about football, I think West Oaks comes out to win, honestly. With the number of transfers they've got in there and the skill they have around the perimeter with their receivers, their DBs, their safeties, quarterbacks, tight ends, I don't see many teams stopping them with the weapons they have. I just don't. They kind of remind me of the 2011 team we had. It's just pick your poison. Like you can't focus on the run because then they're gonna throw it. You can't focus on the pass because they're just gonna run it down you, and they can run screens and get their shifty guys like Jay Boogie and Nazir out very quickly. And I'm not gonna speak on it, but he knows who he is, and they know who he is. But someone made a big transition, and I'm excited to see what he does on offense at that transition. Um, and I'm sure it'll come out on Friday night. But I'm picking West Oaks on the new turf, first home game for football. I take them, let's say 28-21. I think it's gonna be a pretty good game, but I think they'll come out on top.
This was one of those ones, like you said, that was so 50-50. It was like 49 and a half,
Hmm.
51.5. Like it was just so close for me. But I got
Hmm.
to go with the alma mater in this one. I really think they did a phenomenal job in the offseason training these
Hmm.
guys up. They have Division One lineman Amari Graham, who is solid. A lot of great also offensive linemen coming in as
Hmm.
well for this season. Now, I know they're very one heavy, meaning they have really good starters, especially those that have transferred. The key thing with them this year is being healthy. They've got to stay healthy this
Absolutely.
year and rely on those ones to be healthy, making those dynamic plays. Like you said, Jay Boogie, Cole Knox calling the signals for this
Yep.
year. I'm going with West Stokes, 27-20, getting that big
Yeah.
week one victory, making a statement in this season. I think it's going to be fun to see how they go forward. They have a really tough non-conference, but I think week one they're going to pull it out and get this big win. It's going to be a tough one, but I think they can
Hmm.
do it 27-20 over North Davidson.
Absolutely. I think I'm gonna add on to that game too. I think one thing that's gonna help is that in the past couple of years since Upchurch has left, West Stokes football has been kind of in a transition. It's not a lot of coaches that stuck around that kind of grinded out with different kids. We know like Mason Kane had a different offensive coordinator for 4 years. And he was a great athlete. This group has had Loman for the last 3 years. Most of these seniors have been on varsity since sophomore year, and they've seen the growth. They've seen what Loman wants, what he expects, and from the way it looks and the way it sounds, he's got this thing running almost back to his glory days in East Surrey. That good. Like I think they're a really good team, and I think, like you said, if they stay healthy, it's gonna be dangerous to see what these kids do.
And just again, like you said, the coaching, the solid foundation over the last three seasons with Loman, Coach Witt, Coach Nelson, even
Hmm.
some of the guys that I
Nelson.
played with in high
They got
school.
they got Coach
Just
Grayson back.
oh my
Like,
goodness! I mean, it has a great opportunity for West Oaks to be back on the map as they used to be just a couple
mm-hmm.
seasons ago. We year one of Trent Loman's reign as the head coach. And as you mentioned too, finding that identity, I really think that's going to be big for them this year, of stamping that identity of who they are, what they're going to be going forward in
Hmm.
conference play, especially when they go up in the likes of East Surrey, Mount Airy, Forbush, Surrey Central,
Hmm.
and the schools that they play. So the last game is the Sync Sports Network Game of the Week. It's brought to you by Auto Detail Remedy and Lloyd's Smooth Moving. It is Mount Airy traveling to Starmount for a huge week one matchup. This matchup
Big
has
game.
always been circled, especially for Brandon and I over the last 3 to 4 years. Anytime you hear
Hmm.
Mount Airy versus Starmount, this is a game to watch. And I really think this year, Brandon, it's a game to watch. So for the game of the week, Week one, sponsored by Auto Detail Remedy and Lloyd Smooth Moving. Who do you have between Mount Airy and Starmount?
Man, this is a tough one because this is a big game. It means a lot for both communities, for the kids. It's one of those games they live for right here. Um, and I love them. I'm always rooting for them, but in this scenario, I do have to go with Starmount. Starmount has traditionally roll-in players day in, day out. Those kids start training from sixth grade to seventh grade, getting ready for football. With Mount Airy losing all the talent they've lost, I think it's going to be tough to find their identity, like we talk about West Oaks. But I think they will find it towards conference. But I think right now they're still learning and trying to figure out who they are as a team without those pieces that they've had for the last 4 years that contribute to state championships and deep playoff runs. So I like Starmount in this situation. It's gonna be very physical. I think they'll run the ball pretty good. I got Starmount. I'm gonna take on 28-7.
Wow, that's a big spread. I look.
Yeah.
That's why we do pick'ems here. That's a good take. I'm kind of in that same boat. Mount Airy this year under Coach Taylor, Coach
Hmm.
Hyatt as the offensive coordinator, a lot of different pieces, same pieces even for the last couple of years. But it is a different identity in a different group. You don't have the likes of Tyler Mason anymore, Derek Dandy,
Hmm.
Mario Rebels, DJ Joyce,
Tayshawn Martin,
Tayshawn Martin,
Zach Goins.
Zach Goins, all
Mm.
these guys that were a part of
Hmm.
this progress, the Gallimores as well, Ian,
Yep.
and
Ian.
it's
Hmm.
just it's going to be interesting to see how this core is going to be. Now, I had the privilege of seeing them just last week in a scrimmage with RJ Reynolds, and my takeaways from that is Mount Airy is physical up front, like they always traditionally are, but they are
Hmm.
going to be very young skill wise. Kylan Mason's probably going to be their all-time prime number one as any touches, any targets towards him. I think defensively they're still going to be pretty good, but offensively it's that
Hmm.
identity of what they're going to do, running the ball more, throwing the ball. That's going to be the big key. Starmount is very returner heavy, meaning they brought a lot of great guys back from last year's run, made it far in the playoffs. I honestly am going with Starmount as well. I'm going to keep it closer though, 24-20, but I think this is the year that Starmount finally gets over that Mount Airy hump. We've seen it year after year. It's been so close the last 2 or 3 years, but Starmount finally gets over that hump over Mount Airy 24-20.
I can't
Well,
agree with that.
it it is going to be an amazing week one. There's so many other games too that are going to be great, and we might talk about them next week on the podcast. But there's just so many great things coming up for this high school football season. A lot of changes coming up as well. But those
Hmm.
are your 11 pick'ems for week one of the 2026 high school football season here on the Sync Talk podcast on the Sync Sports Network. Again, thank you so much to Brandon Starnes joining me today. B Starnes Media. Be sure to follow him on all platforms on social media. I will link those down below. Brandon, my brother, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure.
We will continue going through week by week of the Sync Talk podcast. Thank you again to our sponsors, Auto Detail Remedy and Lloyd's Smooth Moving, for making it possible for this week's edition of the Sync Talk podcast.